video.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I don't know if he's on video. He's not. He's not live on video.
No, you're not live on.
Hi, this is Michael Waits, and welcome to AIP's News Roundup with Teresa Blissing, the founder of AIP, and Rahul Mathur, a guy I can see on my screen, an AIP ambassador and one of the best-known influencers in the InsurTech space globally. That means all over the world. We are broadcasting live from the Beach City Media Center at True Digital Park. How's everybody doing, Tay?
I'm very good, Michael. I feel a little bit like a guinea pig because we are the first one to be broadcasted here with Beach City Media, but it's awesome. It's a shame that Rahul cannot be here. How are you, Rahul?
I'm good, guys. It's very strange to look at myself on Skype for the first time, whilst I'm normally used to seeing you guys, but I think I could get used to it. But I'm very well, thank you.
Fair enough. Let's get right into it. The last 2 weeks feel like produced just so much news.
Yeah, I think the very first piece of news off the bat is the CEO of SingLife, Walter, was on air at a local Singaporean radio station a couple of weeks back, and he spoke about the new SingLife and Visa debit card program.
Yeah, what is that?
So exactly, what I really loved in that 10-minute segment was how he strung together the fact that the SingLife Visa debit card wants to combine savings, protection, and spending into a single account. But this comes with two very quirky features. The first of which is you get retrenchment insurance with your SingLife Visa debit card, which means if you're unemployed for 4 months, SingLife will pay you 3 times your average monthly spend on the card. So it's almost like there is some form of loyalty bonus coming in through an insurance angle. And the second insurance benefit is a term life cover, which is about 5% of the account value. So that's the big news from SingLife. It's moving from InsurTech into FinTech.
Yeah, exactly. We were talking, I think, in the last episode already about that, that SingLife is going more and more into, the banking and becoming a fintech festival. And Rahul, you also wrote this amazing piece about, fintech. And I think that's something we are seeing more and more in the future.
Yeah, this type of product that's merging fintech, so a savings account or an investment account with an insurance account. There's a term for this. I'm trying to remember it. I looked at it last week and I can't remember. It's like ELIP, or I can't remember what it's called. But the merging of those two things is actually a really interesting new product, Yeah, really cool.
Yeah.
What do we want to talk about next? So let's talk about PingAn and GrabHealth. As you know, I love to talk about Grab, one of my favorite subjects. So what is PingAn?
Alternative distribution.
No, stop it. So what is PingAn doing with GrabHealth?
So this is this is an interesting one, right? So we've already had the speaker from Grab in one of our earlier episodes. They have 150 million users on their platform, but it isn't necessarily PingAn partnering with Grab. Rather, it's a PingAn Good Doctor, which is their Hong Kong listed health tech venture that's partnering with Grab. It almost seems like Grab in Indonesia has gone ahead and white labeled the Good Doctor platform as GrabHealth, but GrabHealth isn't a standalone app, so it's still accessible within the Grab ecosystem through the Grab app itself.
Oh, really?
So the very interesting part of it is from a policy point of view, Grab publicly announced that it's going to commit $2 billion in the Indonesian market over the next 5 years. This was one of those blockbuster press releases with the SoftBank Vision Fund and Masayoshi Son present. So I am not surprised that this move came about, right? Because earlier this year, the news was out that PingAn Good Doctor was going to be partnering with Grab. Once again, very exciting for telemedicine.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this is just the next move after GoJek and HaloDoc have introduced this already. I think it's 2018.
Right.
So HaloDoc was also co-founded by backed up by GoJek in their Series E funding round. In Series B, I think Allianz is involved in them, and they have been operating in Indonesia for quite a while now, and it looks like actually
there's a war going on here.
There's
a war.
Certainly. We are seeing the war across all Southeast Asia. I mean, GoJek has entered Singapore. They are in Thailand with GAT. But I think the real battle is happening in Indonesia because that's the biggest market for GoJek. It is also population-wise the biggest market.
Right.
And so we're really seeing the war going on. And I have the feeling that Grab is heavily imitating the GoJek strategy.
But it's really interesting, right? Because GoJek's home market is Indonesia.
Yeah.
So they're much more comfortable operating there. Grab has sort of smoked out Malaysia, which is their kind of home market, but they're trying to make Singapore their home market. And I was in Singapore, a couple of weeks ago, and there was a massive billboard, which I think a lot of people have been taking a picture of. And I think it said, "Game on."
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, exactly. And, I spent a lot of time in Jakarta last year, and you could see it in the streets, right?
Really?
They are also more than in Singapore and Thailand, I guess. But in Jakarta, you have them all wearing like the GoJek jackets or the Grab jackets. So you really have this picture on the streets. At the beginning, it was also Uber. So Uber is out already. And now, with GrabHealth and the partnering with PingAn's Good Doctor, is just another area where Grab is attacking GoJek in its home market. And super interesting to watch.
But what do you two think? Do you think this is a winner-take-all? In other words, do you think at some point in time Grab and GoJek merge? Do you think one of them just goes away? Because they're both still operating at a loss. And some of these losses are actually quite big. And whether it's in the health space or in the ride-hailing space or the food delivery space, they're losing money, both of them. Right. And they're heavily subsidized for users. I wonder if they're going to have subsidized the health stuff. Rahul, what do you think?
I mean, that's a really good point, right? The way I see it is it could easily end up as a duopoly where Grab and GoJek continue to exist. And in my opinion, and I'll have to fish out this very old article from the GoJek CEO, where he said that the long-term ambition is to always run ride-hailing and food delivery at a low loss or literally at cost, because that keeps users coming back to the platform. Right. One of the biggest problems with financial services, especially insurance, is we struggle to build those daily touch points with customers. So what if you could use other services within your ecosystem to keep people coming back to your ecosystem every day, and then actually make the margin and make a positive LTV on each customer by upselling them finance? So with Grab, we're already seeing this with the Grab Insure marketplace, which is with Jongan and PingAn. In Grab, we're also seeing it now in Indonesia with GrabHealth, and Grab Financial Services spun out and was supposedly rumored to apply for a Singapore digital banking license, which it hasn't gotten, but that doesn't mean it won't get the next round of licenses. So very interesting play, in my opinion. I think financial services is really where they make money and not on ride-hailing and food delivery.
Right. So I'm going to say this something very controversial. Excuse me. Financial services are really complex, and if you look at a company like Robinhood in the United States, they've dropped the cost of trading stocks and bonds to zero. So they're already operating on a negative gross margin basis, and then trying to upsell their customers on more complicated products. Stock loan, stock borrow, margin trading, FX trading, things that most people don't do. And I'm really skeptical, and I know I've said this before, but I'm really skeptical that a ride-hailing company can build a finance company to rival Goldman Sachs or UOB or OCBC. Because just the complexity of those financial products. So if you're expecting to use your ride-hailing as a loss leader to build a complex financial services company, I just think it's really hard. Now, I understand the partnership model, but I'm just really curious what you think about these people being able to build a complex products and then sell it to their users. They have good partners, right? Yeah, I know.
So Grab now with PingAn's Good Doctor, GoJek, and HaloDoc. So they're not trying to do this on their own. But also, if you look at insurance and financial services, a lot of them still have a quite comfortable margin.
Yep.
And this margin is the opportunity for these digital disruptors, and that is something we will be seeing more and more. That insurance companies have, as you gave the example, have to operate on a very, very thin, if not zero margin. Because that's something that insurance companies in most parts of the world haven't done. But PingAn is actually one of the examples where they are running on very, very small margins.
Right.
I think, Rahul, you have analyzed PingAn quite detailed. You want to give your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think with Ping, I mean, we'll obviously come to a very interesting piece of news from PingAn, but at a high level, what many people forget about PingAn is the side of PingAn we see is the whole tech investment arm, which is running at a loss. But behind the scenes, PingAn has 1 million agents on the ground selling policies for them. They have something like 45 million motor policies out in the market, most of which are sold via agents. So yes, PingAn is running it at a loss, but there's also the catch there being that PingAn has a very profitable core business, which is sort of financing these expenses. But yeah, I can completely see what you mean, right? If I could quickly jump in there, I think to Michael's point, a lot of retail banking operations today run at a loss. But this is primarily because of the fact that they have these fixed expenditures in the form of branches and human beings. But I guess the real aspiration for a platform like Grab or GoJek is if you strip out some of these fixed costs, can you make the unit economics go from the red to the green zone? At the end of the day, every startup is an experiment, right? And even though GoJek and Grab aren't necessarily startups anymore, they're still running experiments, right? No one knew you could build a alternative digital economy on the side, right? If you look at 150 million users on the Grab platform, they're probably a country. They're not even a platform anymore, right?
Yeah, I mean, 150 million would make them the second largest country in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, and they get to a size where they are like too big to fail. Like imagine Grab or GoJek would fail now. What that means, not only to the direct people who are employed by Grab, but also all the micro entrepreneurs. Michael, you probably witnessed the crash of Honestbee in Thailand, right?
Yeah.
Also like the food delivery or grocery delivery service. And already that left a lot of suppliers hanging with their expenses, with their business model, right? And Grab and GoJek, they have reached a size now that they're really too big to fail, actually.
So you bring up a really interesting point. If you remember back in 1999, 2000, and 2001, when you had the dot-com bust, tons of people that were employed by these firms that had negative gross margins actually did lose their jobs. Suppliers got killed. And I'm afraid today, particularly if you look at what's happening with WeWork, which is a completely separate topic, but again, funded by the Vision Fund, Masayoshi Son's not always right. And I think you run a really big risk that unless these companies merge, because even look at the InsurTech space per se, all of these InsurTech companies are trying to be brokers. That's how they start first, right? We talk about distribution. Sorry to bring it up again. But most of them are just trying to figure out an optimized and automated way to distribute. None of them are actually underwriting. None of them. And when we spoke to MetLife last week, one of the things they said was it's really unlikely that these companies are going to get into the underwriting business. So they're not going to take away, they're not going to disrupt per se the insurance business as a whole. Right? So I'm just really curious with this relationship with Grab or with GoJek, is it really too big to fail? And Rahul said this is ready. They're experimenting. And I wouldn't be surprised, and I said this back in 2000 as well, some of these companies are going to go away, right? Honestbee is just the first one to fall. I don't think they're the last.
Yeah, but actually a really scary thought, because it's not only the people who are working for Grab, it's all their, or GoJek, it's all their, micro entrepreneurs, all the drivers, all, GoJek has also these services like Go Clean, Go Massage, Go Glam, right? Like all these people who are now relying on the platform for an income, right?
Right, remember, all those people are subsidized because Grab and GoJek know they're operating at negative gross margins, but those micro entrepreneurs are getting regular prices because Grab and GoJek are paying them the regular price and subsidizing the business for the consumers.
Exactly.
So there's going to be a knock-on effect, and I think it could get really ugly. And this happens in markets all the time. It happens in the stock market, happens in the bond market. I've seen it for the last 25 years. It goes in cycles. And there's one other topic as well. A lot of these really big companies like Grab are funded through the Vision Fund, and the Vision Fund is funded through Saudi Arabia, and there's a lot of political tension in the Middle East. I just don't know what's going to happen.
Okay. I think we're getting a bit off topic here now. Rahul, you want to talk a little bit about the PingAn and the financials a bit more, or?
Yeah.
And also this idea that they want to be valued more like a tech company and less like an insurance company, I think is really interesting.
Yeah, this is one of those interesting conundrums for PingAn, because they picked up Jessica Tan, who was previously with McKinsey, to be their co-CEO to sort of support their journey from being an insurance company to a technology company.
Right.
As of now, PingAn is valued at something like 7 times forward revenue, which is quite a fair multiple versus what a Tencent get, which is in very much so in excess of 10 times. So they're still valued as an insurance company, even though they're becoming a technology company. They recently announced their financials for the period ended 30th September. So it's trailing 9 months. And I picked out some very interesting numbers, which I've obviously expanded on a bit more detail in a blog post we have on our website.
Right.
But what really caught my attention was the fact that their 5 ecosystem strategy is actually paying rich dividends. In 9 months, they acquired 30 million new customers, and 39% of those 30 million customers came from their allied ecosystems, which means the rest of them were obviously acquired through traditional channels, but the rest of them must have downloaded the PingAn Auto Owner app, the PingAn Good Doctor app, must have signed up to the Lufax investment platform, and thereby got roped into purchasing a PingAn insurance product. And the second really important thing to note is PingAn just announced it's committing an additional $15 billion over the next decade towards technology investment. So this tops up the $7 billion that they have spent this decade. And I'm just going to pause here for a quick moment, right? You think $7 billion is a lot that they have spent? PingAn owns an investment platform called Lufax. Lufax was valued at $39.4 billion. PingAn owns about a 40% stake. And even if you want to apply a holding company discount of about 60%, Lufax itself would return PingAn $6 billion, which means PingAn has pretty much broken even this decade on their technology investment, and that's jaw-dropping.
Yeah. No, very, very impressive what they are building, and they are not. We talked about this in our previous episodes, right? They're not only focused on China. They are focusing on the global market with all their investments in Europe, for example, FinLeap. We talked about this investment before. Very, very interesting to see where PingAn is developing towards. And I think today, every company in a way has to be a technology company.
Has to be.
Right?
Has to be. And this was the argument we were having online, remember? Rahul, you remember last week or 2 weeks ago after we made that blog post, there was this one guy who was just yelling at us because he was saying that insurance companies will never be tech companies. And I don't think he understood. Maybe it was his age or maybe he was just angry. But he was like, it's just an insurance company. It'll always be an insurance company and it'll never be a tech company. But I agree with what Teresa just said.
No, and exactly. And also a trend that we are seeing is that insurance companies, they have a separate technology company, and then also have this as like a profitable business. So not only build a technology, for your own operations, but also sell it, to other vendors and other cases. An example here is definitely Chong'an and Chong'an
I was
Technologies.
just going to say
right?
Chong'an does this, right?
So Chong'an Technology has the joint venture with Grab and is supplying the technology to Grab. We see something fairly similar with Lemonade in the States. They also have their own tech company, which is actually headquartered in Israel. Right? So Lemonade is coming out of the US, but their tech company is headquartered in Israel and producing all the tech there, and then also distributing this to other companies to use their technology, and that is something we are seeing more and more. Also, I have the feeling what AXA is doing and with their venture building entity Kamet, right? That they are also there. On the one hand, it's technology. On the other hand, is access to market. Like marketplaces, what
Right.
PingAn is also doing now. So to not only have the technology, but also the access to new customers and new populations.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. We talk about this a lot too. They're looking at all this external innovation, and as soon as it reaches scale, they either buy it or they white label it and bring it in-house, and then they integrate that back. And we had these long conversations with very big insurers saying, we spend $100 million or more every year, or we've allocated $100 million to invest in InsurTech startups.
Yeah. And then another trend we are seeing, I mean, not only insurance companies going tech companies, we also see the other way around. There was the news now out of Singapore with the messenger app Kakao and Samsung to establish, in Korea, to establish the first digital insurer there, which is quite interesting news. Considering Kakao is also like one of these like super apps where you have like messaging services, but they also have like a taxi company integrated into that. So it's like also kind of ride hailing and several services. They already, I believe last year got a banking license. So they also have a virtual banking license in Korea, and now having in partnership with Samsung Fire and Marine Insurance, the digital insurance company they are setting up. Rahul, what is your take on that?
So this is a very interesting announcement coming out of South Korea. I guess the only point I will make is I've already seen a insurance company come out of there. My connection has dropped.
Oh.
No, you're okay.
Yeah, I think the company you're referring to is Carrot General Insurance. They were, I think, the first one who got a digital insurance license in Korea. They are also, I think, associated with one of the incumbents, so another case of like corporate venture building.
Right.
Where they basically founded a new company, a new brand to target a new demographic. And
I want to make a point about the significance of any company outside of Korea partnering with Samsung inside of Korea. Rahul, do you know what percentage of Korean GDP Samsung is? Just off the top of your head.
I don't think so, but it's probably something like 10%.
How about 17%?
Wow.
It's 17%. So Samsung, partnering with Samsung is actually really important because not only is it 17% of GDP, but the leaders of that company are very powerful. It's almost like they're running a shadow government in South Korea. So this is more than just, and remember, they already have a big insurance company, an insurance arm, and they run a big financial services business separate, massive manufacturing, all this stuff. This is really significant for a company that like Kakao that's not even close to the size of Samsung. So this is really significant.
The really interesting point to make, I know my line dropped out a couple of seconds ago, is this article does say it's the first digital non-life company. But in my opinion, there already is one digital non-life company, which is called Carrot Insurance. Yep. It's a joint venture between Hanwha, Hyundai Motor, and one of the telecom firms in South Korea, which is also quite interesting. I went and checked out their website, so it's definitely in operation. But this is super interesting, right? Because we now have neo insurers in India, in Singapore, in Hong Kong, naturally in China, and now also South Korea.
Yeah.
So it seems like insurance is everywhere on the digital side.
Yeah, and just what you said, Michael, earlier, that incumbents like MetLife, they don't see a threat coming from that these companies are taking over the underwriting, but these are cases where we have a licensed insurance company that is also doing the underwriting and get like a digital insurance license. So they are certainly a competitor to the incumbents. But also what we are seeing, they're mostly born the same is true for like Bowtie and Avo Insurance in Hong Kong.
Right.
So they are basically a new brand coming out of the incumbents.
Right. So we see incumbents doing this, right? Avo's the perfect example. It looks like a startup company. It smells like a startup company. It's branded like a startup company, but in fact, it's not.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So yeah, we have this trend for corporate venture building, but we also do have like real startups like Echo Insurance, for example.
Right. So this is my favorite, and even Exenon, but Exenon doesn't underwrite, right?
Well, Exenon, they have the reinsurance license,
right.
so they out of Labuan, where they can do the underwriting for the reinsurance. Yeah.
So let's also revisit a company that we had on the show a month or so ago, right? What was it? The Care Voice.
Yes.
So some news about them as well. Their startup Care and Generali are partnering to launch like an all-in-one digital health platform. That's very significant actually for the Care Voice.
Yeah, I'm very happy for the guys. I mean, their market is mainly mainland China,
right?
But they are also in Hong Kong. And as far as I understand, the partnership with Generali now is also to provide healthcare, especially for startups. Because Michael, you know this, and when you work in the startup world, insurance is a problem.
It's a big problem,
right? Like a lot of startups, they cannot afford having one of these pay up, large sums. Exactly. So what they have designed apparently is a platform to specially have tailor-made solutions for entrepreneurs and startups, which I think is really cool and definitely needed. And I'm also at the moment talking to UN Women. They have their new program called We Empower Asia, where they want to support female entrepreneurs, and there are also things coming in like maternity leave, right? Or the costs of being pregnant, right? And this is something that is quite costly for startups that cannot afford like a full employee benefit package. And so yeah, very excited about this news. Rahul, what do you think?
I have absolutely nothing to add. I think you guys pretty much nailed it there, right? Startups. And not even just startups, I think SMEs in general suffer from a lack of tailor-made healthcare plans.
Yeah.
And you could always see startup Care and the Generali partnership morph or move out to the adjacent market of the broader SME segment, right? So huge target market, and the team's really been executing. Recently raised their 10 million Series A, so good to see them progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super happy about these programs like the UN program you're talking about, and combined with this startup insurance program. We know from our own experience when we speak to founders, even just raising money, if you're a woman and you're pregnant, in some cases, we've had a woman founder tell us this, other women will not fund you.
Yeah,
so it's a
exactly.
real problem.
That was Julie from Small Ticket from South Korea.
So I want to point this out that this is actually a real problem.
Yeah, it is. It is a real problem, and also for me, I'm quite happy to see that Generali is involved in that.
Oh, right, because you.
Yeah, I used to work for Generali for 10 years, and not saying this loud here or live on camera, but one of the reasons I left Generali was because I was a bit frustrated with the little change that is happening, and now seeing that they are catching up in the innovation game and are doing a lot. I had a call last week actually with a team in the headquarters in Trieste, and they are doing a lot now in terms of innovation, and very happy to see this. And
Okay, let's finish up with this InsurTech 100. Right, this is a list of the 100 world's most innovative InsurTech companies. Who does this selection? What is the implication of these awards? Who runs this?
It's a company called FinTech Global. They run a monthly FinTech and InsurTech newsletter, and they run a couple of conferences. So they're like a media company, but the list has a lot of I guess fame attached to it, simply because social media goes abuzz when this comes out. I know there are a lot of awards out there, but I'd say the InsurTech 100 probably is like the Emmys for insurance. So yeah, if you're on that list, you may have a couple of novice investors come knocking on your door. But apart from that, that's pretty much it.
I see a couple of familiar names. CXA, who we know. Care Voice is there. Who else? Echo, who we spoke to. I'm going through the whole list now.
Ativatic, which was one of the first episodes we recorded. I think it was the second one, right?
Laka, Lemonade, a whole bunch of companies that we know.
Yeah.
There was also Toffee Insurance, and you recently spoke to Rohan, Michael, so that was a good one.
Yeah. And a couple more that are coming. I see Shift Technology. So Shift is coming. Rahul, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're from the US or from the UK?
I think Shift Technology,
They're definitely not from Asia, but they have an office in Singapore now, and they are in the plug and play cohort. And we will be at Singapore FinTech Festival.
Talking to Plug and Play.
And talking to Plug and Play, and we will record a panel there with a representative from Shift in Singapore. So we will have a special episode with the cohort from Plug and Play in Singapore. And at the same Singapore FinTech Festival, we will also record with a couple of New Zealand startups.
All right.
Which is quite interesting, right? So to see what is coming out of New Zealand. And actually, one company is also on this 100 list. It's Journey. They are also there. And I think they are also nominated now for the Digital Insurer, what are they called? LifeFest awards that are run at the moment. So yeah, quite excited to meet the guys like Mike, the CEO and co-founder, will be joining the panel in Singapore. So yeah, exciting stuff coming up.
Yeah, so we should probably finish up here, but I just want to say there's so much news coming out every couple of weeks in the insurance and InsurTech space. This reminds me of one of the little sets that they do on the Daily Show. It's called like, we don't have enough time for that because there's so much news coming out.
Too much news, too little time, right?
Right, too much news, too little time. Anyway, I want to thank both of you again for doing this. Teresa Blissing, Rahul Mathur, you guys are awesome.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Rahul.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.